Hi, hey, and Happy New Year. Obi-Han here, and welcome back to the Comic High Ground. Okay, so the first video to start off this year is going to be actually a Miles Morales Spider-Man video. Partially because it's actually the next video in the chronological order, if I'm not mistaken. It's the next comic in the Gang War event going on right now. So it fits. But I'm actually definitely doing this video on the Miles comic because there's something in particular on here that really sparked my interest. Now, as we knew from the Gang War comic before this one in Amazing Spider-Man, the team pretty much kind of all went off to different parts of New York to handle different threats. Miles went to Brooklyn because there was word that Hobgoblin was there causing trouble. Now, this issue starts off with a flashback of Miles speaking to what I'm thinking is his therapist, and he's kind of talking to the therapist about the argument he had, or really it was more so of him yelling at Peter about Peter not being around, and the therapist is just kind of saying that, hey, maybe you don't need Peter's help as much as you think you do, something along those lines. This portion wasn't really that important because, again, this is kind of like drama for the sake of drama, and it's unnecessary. But when we cut to the present time, we see Miles has arrived to Brooklyn, and we see a battle going on between two gangs, and it's like I think he called him the Frost Pharaoh and the Bumblebee guy from like way back when. I actually in one of my other Miles Morales videos a few months back, I did actually kind of cover one of Miles' encounters with this guy because Miles actually was kind of going through something. He still is, but that wasn't the beginning of it. And he kind of like unloaded. He kicked that guy's ass. So for this guy to be back causing trouble, and it's kind of mentioned in the comic where when Miles arrives, and he's kind of like, well, I've upgraded, I've evolved since the last time we fought each other. And Miles is just kind of like, yeah, so have I. And he kind of uses his Venom Saber. So Miles is here to pretty much disrupt this gang war going on in the streets. Now, I don't think there were any reports of these two particular gangs fighting, but they're just there, so of course he's going to have to stop them. Pretty much D-list, and I think even Miles calls them D-list villains. So he pretty much gets to work. He pretty much dispatches most of them for the most part. It's a few stragglers, like the Bumblebee guy, I can't think of his name, but he has some type of tech that makes him a bit more of a problem, I would say, for Miles. But it's here where we kind of see Miles do a flashback, and this is the reason why I wanted to cover this issue, because in this flashback you see that Misty Knight has actually taken Miles back to whatever headquarters they have, and she has him training under Colleen Wing. Now, Colleen Wing, I'm sure if you don't know, she's just like Misty. They're both the daughters of the dragon. And Colleen specializes in swords and, kung fu and everything. But if you remember Colleen, if you remember the Iron Fist show, she was the one with the sword in the Iron Fist show. So, all that to say, Colleen Wing knows how to use some blades. And she's training Miles on how to use his Venom Saber. So, he's kind of cracking jokes here and there in the training, but she's basically trying to get him to take things seriously, and she's actually overwhelming him a lot. And in the midst of this training, Misty steps in and she starts attacking him as well, and Miles is like, hey, whoa, what's going on? This is supposed to be training, take it easy. And Misty's basically like, do you think the bad guys in the streets are gonna take turns attacking you? You better come up with some way to deal with this. So basically what we find out during this training session is that Miles' Venom Saber pretty much drains his energy, as stated by Colleen, so he has to learn how to pretty much use it in a way that's not gonna be a detriment to him, which means basically building up his stamina and using it at the right time, etc. And in the midst of this training, Miles actually uses his camouflage ability and hops up on the wall, which Colleen had no idea that Miles could camouflage himself, because she's like, what, he can do that? You didn't tell me that. And Misty's like, well, you should have read his file. So in the midst of them trying to get to Miles, Misty accidentally clocks Colleen upside the head, and that pretty much means that Miles wins in this training session. And of course, his snarky remark about this makes Colleen pretty much say, okay, yeah, you're my least favorite Spider-Man now. So we cut back to the present day where Miles is dealing with the Bumblebee guy or whatever. He takes them out, and then the Frost Pharaoh brings up this literally a mech. He summons a mech, and it's funny because Miles looks up at it and he's like, a Gundam. The writer here, I will give him credit. He has great comedic timing, but he's in touch with like manga and anime and all that, and that makes it all the more cool. So, you know, the references, the fact that the Venom Saber is basically a homage to Vegeto's Spirit Sword and Kuwabara's Spirit Sword. I just realized they both had the same name. That's awesome. That's awesome writing, because it adds a bit of, I guess, flair, but it adds some new things to the writing that not a lot of Marvel and DC comics have now. So Miles struggles to deal with this mech, and while he's dealing with it, his web shooters freeze up because, again, Frost Pharaoh and Misty and Colleen end up showing up to help him. So while they're kind of running interference and Misty's checking on Miles and Colleen's pretty much going to Frost Gundam with her sword, she gets the sword stuck in his back and gets knocked out of the way. In the midst of all this, Miles kind of recovers. He gets his second wind. His web shooters are working because they have been frozen, and he basically leaps up towards the Gundam and touches the sword that Colleen had lodged into his back. And because it's very conductive, he's able to use his Venom Blast to basically set off an explosion, if you will, into the Gundam, pretty much beating the Frost Pharaoh at that point. And it's really cool, because what we also see is this nice little back and forth banter between Miles and Misty and Colleen, because at one point the Frost Pharaoh actually does call them his sidekicks, which they are not too happy to hear. But all in all, the dynamic with Miles and Misty and Colleen, I like that. What this is giving Miles his own skill set that sets him apart from Peter. And whereas Peter has been doing this for years and years and years, and we know that Peter pretty much knows the ropes, Miles is still learning the ropes. And the best way for him to really stick out and be his own man aside from Peter is for him to have these specific skill sets. Peter has his group of heroes that he hangs out with, and then we now have Miles, who is learning and under the tutelage of Misty Knight and Colleen Wing and whoever else they may know. It's a completely unique set of skills, because they're more so in the espionage side. Colleen, again, with this sword, she just kung fu and swordsmanship. That's unique. Now, Peter did train with Shang-Chi and learn the way of the spider, which is his own thing, and I also don't know if they even acknowledge that anymore. But Miles is kind of having his own subset of things, and hopefully they keep the sword. A lot of people weren't happy about the sword, but it does kind of make him stick out even more. And to be honest, they actually came up with some off the wall name, like Samurai Spider or something like that. I'm still on the side of Miles keeping the name Spider-Man, but Samurai Spider does sound kind of cool, just saying. So anyway, this issue pretty much closes out with this same police force that's been giving Miles trouble ever since his first issue in this run has come and basically asked him for help dealing with the gang war. That's to make a long story short. And then we also find out that Hobgoblin has approached Aaron Davis to deal with Spider-Man. So it looks like Prowler's back. It looks like Prowler maybe or supposedly is going to be attacking Spider-Man, aka Miles. I kind of doubt that's going to be the case, because it's kind of one of those things where we kind of told this story already a lot in the past like 5 years. So can we kind of change it up? And I think that's what it is. I really think that Prowler is probably going to be a double agent. I don't think he's really out to get Miles. I think he's just kind of looking out for him, but we'll see. I hadn't read a lot of the stuff since the last time Prowler disappeared, so he may be back to his old evil Prowler ways. I don't know. We'll see. But that was the Miles issue, and I gotta say, Miles's book is probably my favorite book in Marvel right now that I'm reading and keeping up with, because X-Men has ways too much going on. Avengers is always hard to keep up with. I really don't read Iron Man, and I don't read Daredevil, even though I heard this, the Zdarsky's run is pretty good. And then with Peter, I mean, you all have seen my videos. We all know what's going on with Peter. So Miles is pretty much, he has probably the most interesting, and I guess the most unique, and sadly to say, he's probably the most Spider-Man book out right now. But that, again, that's Marvel's doing. So I'm gonna try to keep up with what's going on in Gang War and keep up with Miles. Maybe this can be a good starting point from Miles' comic, so I can consistently keep up with it. But look, hit that like button if you like what you saw here today. Drop a comment to let me know what you think about the new Samurai Spider name for Miles. It's not official, but you know, it's still a pretty cool name. And what do you think about, again, what do you think about the saber, the Venom saber? Is it cool? You think they should kind of left it where it was? Do you want it to stay? Look, let me know what you think about that. So hit that subscribe button, please, and remember, we have the high ground. Catch you later.